Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a question that might have been lingering in your mind. What if she still thinks about you, but will never reach out? You see the signs. She checks your social media, revisits old messages, and maybe even starts typing something before deleting it. But why won't she take that step? Is it fear? Pride? Or is it something more profound? A silent battle between her emotions and her ego. In this video, we'll break down the psychological dynamics, revealing why she stays silent, why your response or lack thereof matters more than you think, and how you can turn this situation into your most significant advantage. So stay with me until the end, because by the time we're done, you'll see the power of silence in a new light. Let's get into it. 1. She's watching but won't reach out. She still thinks about you. The memory of you lingers in her mind, unshaken despite her silence. She tells herself she has moved on and that reaching out would be a mistake, yet her actions betray her words. She scrolls through your social media, looking for signs of change, signs that you might still care. She rereads old messages, feeling a pull she refuses to acknowledge. She types out a message, fingers hovering over the send button, only to delete it before it can see the light of day. The desire is there, but so is the fear. The longing is fundamental, but so is her pride. Her mind is at war with itself. On one side, emotions push her toward you, reminding her of the connection, the attraction, the comfort she once felt. On the other, her ego resists, unwilling to risk rejection and admit that she no longer holds the power she once did. She tells herself that you would have reached out first if you cared. She convinces herself that silence is strength, that control is in restraint. Yet, every time she checks your profile and hesitates before sending a message, she proves to herself that she is still affected. This internal conflict is cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when one's actions do not align with one's beliefs. She wants to believe she is indifferent and that walking away was the right decision, but the need to check up on you suggests otherwise. She craves reassurance that she still influences you and that you haven't fully moved on. Yet reaching out would mean surrendering the illusion of control, admitting vulnerability, and risking the one thing her pride cannot handle: rejection. Women, like men, experience emotional triggers that dictate their actions. Fear of rejection keeps her silent. The loss of control keeps her watching. Wounded pride keeps her from taking the first step. She will wait, hoping you will make the move and validate her unspoken feelings. But if you don't, remain detached and refuse to chase, she will feel the shift, and in that moment, the power dynamic changes. What was once hesitation may become a regret. What was once distance may turn into pursuit. Because nothing unsettles the mind more than realizing that the one you assumed would always be there no longer is. 2. The power of silence in attraction. Silence is a tool few men know how to wield, yet it is one of the most potent forces in attraction. When a woman pulls away, whether through distance, hesitation, or an outright break, a man's instinct is to close the gap. He wants to reach out, explain, and find some excuse to reconnect. He rationalizes his impulses, convincing himself that a simple message will clarify things, that he just needs closure, and that she might be waiting for him to take the first step. But in reality, the moment he reaches out, he relinquishes control. He confirms what she already suspects. She still holds power over him. People would rather suffer in silence than admit they were wrong. This is especially true in relationships. If a woman has chosen to create distance, She will rarely return out of sheer regret. Instead, she will wait. She will test. She will observe. If he chases, she is reassured of her position. If he remains silent, however, something shifts. She starts to question herself. She wonders why he hasn't reached out. Did she misjudge him? Did she underestimate his value? If he is so unaffected, maybe she was wrong about him. The psychology behind this is rooted in power dynamics. The one who cares less in a relationship has more power. This does not mean a man should suppress his emotions or pretend to be indifferent. It means he must understand the weight of his actions. Every time he reacts emotionally to a woman's withdrawal, he reinforces her control. She is no longer the one who feels the loss, he is. But the dynamic changes if he remains composed and lets silence do the work for him. The discomfort of absence begins to set in, not for him, but for her. Most men make the mistake of overanalyzing. They overthink, convincing themselves that if they craft the perfect message, if they find the proper excuse, they can somehow regain her interest. They fail to see that the moment they reach out, they erase all doubt she may have had. She no longer has to wonder where he stands. He has just made it clear. But a man who understands silence does not play this game. He does not reach out. He does not explain himself. He does not give her the satisfaction of knowing he is waiting. Instead, he continues forward, unbothered, allowing time and distance to shift the power back in his favor. The beauty of silence is that it forces reflection. When a man steps back and refuses to give in to impulse, a woman is left with nothing but her thoughts, and thoughts are powerful. The mind fills in the blanks and often does so in ways that create doubt, curiosity, and longing. A woman who once felt confident about her decision begins to question it. She replays past moments, wondering if she was too quick to dismiss him. She starts to miss the attention she once took for granted. And slowly, the dynamic changes, not because he tried to convince her, but because he allowed space for her to convince herself. A man who masters silence is a man who holds the true advantage. He does not chase what is pulling away. He does not seek validation through reaction. He understands that attraction is not maintained through words but through presence, or in this case, the absence of it. By resisting the urge to reach out, he does not just regain control, he shifts the balance of desire. And when she finally returns, it will not be because he begged for it, but because she realized on her own that he was worth returning to. 3. Why chasing pushes her further away. Men often believe persistence is the key to winning a woman's heart. They think that if they show her enough attention, reassure her of their feelings, and prove their dedication, she will eventually reciprocate. But in reality, the opposite happens. The more you chase, the more she pulls away. The more available you are, the less she values you. Women are not drawn to desperation. They are drawn to confidence, self-sufficiency, and a sense of mystery. When a man becomes too predictable and too eager to please, he loses the very qualities that made him attractive in the first place. Attraction thrives on tension. It needs a balance of presence and absence, of certainty and uncertainty. When you constantly reach out first and seek her validation through frequent texts and reassurances, you remove the element of mystery. She knows exactly where she stands with you and stops thinking about you. There is no anticipation, no curiosity, no longing. Women do not desire what is handed to them freely. They crave what feels just out of reach. It is human nature to value what is scarce, to chase what seems unattainable. The moment she feels she has you all together, without effort, she unconsciously begins to lose interest. Desperation is repellent. It signals insecurity, a lack of self-worth, and an inability to be content. A woman wants to feel like she has earned a man's attention, not like she is the only thing holding him together. When a man places all his emotional weight on a woman's approval, she feels the pressure of being responsible for his happiness. This is not attractive. It is exhausting. A woman does not want to be your emotional anchor. She wants to be drawn to your strength, to your ability to stand firm, whether she is there or not. The paradox of attraction is that certainty kills. When a woman is entirely sure of a man's feelings and knows he will always be there regardless of how she treats him, she stops valuing his presence. This is why men who are too available often find themselves ignored, while those who create a sense of distance remain on her mind. When a man pulls away and shifts his focus inward instead of outward, something interesting happens. She starts to feel the void he leaves behind. Instead of taking his attention for granted, she wonders about him. She questions whether she misjudged him, whether he has moved on, whether she still has his interest, and in that uncertainty, attraction reignites. Psychologically, people fear loss more than they appreciate gain. A woman may not consciously realize she is losing interest in a man who chases her, but she will immediately feel a shift when he stops. A psychological trigger is activated when he disappears, withdraws his attention, and stops making himself available. She starts to reflect on his value, to recall what drew her to him in the first place. Absence forces her to consider his worth, while constant presence allows her to take him for granted. The solution is simple but not easy. Stop chasing. Pull back, not as a manipulative tactic, but as an act of self-respect. Focus on your own life, your goals, your passions. Create a sense of independence that makes you attractive to her and everyone around you. Let her feel what it is like not to have you constantly seeking her approval. Let uncertainty build in her mind. Let her curiosity take over. The men who are most desired are not the ones who try the hardest. They are the ones who are secure enough to walk away if necessary. They are the ones who do not chase, but instead inspire women to come to them. 4. Emotional mastery. Why control is attractive. A woman does not lose attraction to a man because she stops loving him. She loses attraction because she stops feeling drawn to him. Attraction is not purely logical, it is visceral, rooted in deep biological instincts that women themselves may not fully understand. A woman may want a kind, sensitive man who expresses his emotions freely, but she is wired to seek stability. She may not even recognize why she starts to feel distant from a man who is overly emotional, reactive, or dependent on her validation. All she knows is that something no longer feels right. Emotional stability is the silent force that separates men who command attraction from those who repel it. A man who cannot control his emotions, who seeks constant reassurance, who reacts impulsively, who crumbles when faced with rejection, exposes a weakness that women are biologically programmed to avoid. In the early stages of human evolution, survival depended on the strength of the tribe's leaders. An emotionally unpredictable man was a liability, a threat to stability. That instinct remains hardwired in women today. They may live in a modern world, but their subconscious still evaluates men through the same ancient lens. When a woman pulls away, tests your patience and challenges you emotionally, she is not doing it to be cruel. She is assessing whether you are strong enough to handle the weight of her emotions. If you break, lash out in anger, or beg for reassurance, she instinctively feels you are not as steady as she needs you to be. But if you remain composed and acknowledge the situation without allowing it to control you, She feels something different. She feels safe. She feels respect. And where respect exists, attraction thrives. This is why men who beg, plead, or spiral out of control after a breakup never get the response they hope for. A woman does not come back because a man convinces her with words. She comes back because she senses his strength in silence. The man who adapts moves forward without losing himself and does not chase, but instead refocuses on his own life, is the man who reawakens attraction, not because he manipulates her, but because his emotional mastery signals that he is the kind of man she is wired to want. Neuroscience confirms what ancient philosophy has always taught. Emotional resilience is power. The human brain constantly scans for signs of strength or weakness in others. Women subconsciously assess a man's ability to handle stress, uncertainty, and adversity. Her attraction intensifies when she sees a man who does not let external circumstances shake him. She starts to pull away when she sees a man who depends on her emotional validation. The distinction is apparent. Men who control their emotions control the dynamic. A beautiful man does not allow external events to dictate his internal state. He does not seek validation from a woman because he validates himself. He does not react emotionally to challenges because he understands control is not about suppressing emotions, but mastering them. He does not need to prove his worth to anyone because he already knows it. And because of that, women are drawn to him in ways they cannot explain. 5. The power of mystery, making her wonder. Predictability is the death of attraction. When a woman feels like she has figured a man out completely, the intrigue begins to fade. There is no tension, no excitement, no curiosity left to explore. On the other hand, mystery creates a psychological pull that keeps her engaged. It makes her mind work overtime, analyzing, questioning, and wondering. A man who remains unpredictable is a man who lingers in her thoughts, even when he is absent. Right now, she believes she knows you. She has mapped out your patterns, your reactions, your habits. She knows when you will text, what you will say, how you will respond. And because of that, she doesn't have to think about you. But the moment you break those patterns and become unreadable, something shifts. Her mind begins to work against her, filling the gaps with uncertainty. Is he seeing someone new? Why hasn't he reacted to my post? Has he moved on? The questions begin to form, and so does emotional investment. Cognitive psychology shows that uncertainty fuels attraction. The human mind is wired to seek closure, to resolve the unknown. When a woman can't predict you, she starts investing mental energy into decoding you. That energy turns into obsession. The more mysterious you become, the more she needs to figure you out. This is why the men who appear slightly out of reach, somewhat enigmatic, are often the ones women desire most. It is not about deception, but about maintaining an air of unpredictability that keeps the emotional tension alive. Social media is one of the biggest killers of mystery. A woman can track a man's movements, thoughts, and emotions with a few taps on her screen. She knows if he has viewed her story, liked a post, or commented on something. She never has to wonder about him if he reacts predictably and constantly engages. But the moment he stops, when he pulls back, becomes less available and removes himself from her digital world, her mind starts racing. The absence of information forces her to fill in the blanks. The strategy is simple: stop oversharing, create distance, be present in person, but elusive online. Let her wonder instead of handing her all the answers. Attraction is not built through constant reassurance, but through the right balance of closeness and uncertainty. A man who is a puzzle is a man she wants to solve. And as long as she is trying to figure you out, she is still invested in you. 6. Rebuilding your value, the art of self-improvement. Women pay attention to what you do, not what you say. After a breakup, she isn't listening to your promises, explanations, or regrets. She is watching to see if you rise, crumble, move forward, or stay stuck. This is where most men fail. They linger in the past, trapped in a cycle of self-pity, hoping she will notice their pain and return. But suffering does not inspire regret. Strength does. A man who transforms and elevates himself beyond who he was becomes a man she cannot forget. There are only two paths after heartbreak. One is obsession, the desperate need to prove something to her, to make her see what she lost. This path leads nowhere. It keeps you emotionally tied to her, operating from a place of insecurity. The other path is transformation. It is the choice to evolve, not for her, not for revenge, but for yourself. True self-improvement is not about making her miss you. It is about becoming a man so valuable and refined that her presence or absence no longer matters. Ironically, this is what makes her regret leaving. Not your sadness, not your longing, but your growth. Regret is rooted in comparison. She feels justified in her decision if she sees you stagnant, struggling to move on. But if she sees you thriving, physically stronger, mentally sharper, financially more stable, it forces her to reevaluate. Regret does not come from your suffering. It comes from the realization that you have become someone she can no longer reach, someone beyond her grasp. The key to this transformation lies in three fundamental areas: body, mind, and social expansion. Physically, he is a man who pushes himself in the gym, builds strength and endurance, and radiates a different kind of energy. He carries himself with confidence and purpose. Mentally, he sharpens his skills, broadens his knowledge, and deepens his understanding of himself and the world. He does not dwell on the past. He focuses on his future. Financially, he increases his value not just in monetary terms, but in his ability to provide, create, and command respect in his field. Socially, he expands his world, meets new people, engages in new experiences, and refuses to let his life revolve around one person's absence. The ultimate goal is detachment. Not indifference in the sense of bitterness or avoidance, but in the sense of emotional freedom. When a man reaches this stage and no longer cares whether she reaches out, he has won. He has broken free from the need for external validation. Paradoxically, this is when she notices that nothing is more attractive and powerful than a man who no longer needs to be seen. 7. The psychological trigger: how regret works. People do not regret losing someone who is still emotionally available to them. She feels secure in her decision as long as she believes you are still invested, still thinking about her, and waiting for a chance to reconnect. Even if she experiences a moment of doubt, the reassurance that you are still an option prevents any real sense of loss from settling in. There is no urgency, no deep emotional response, just the comfort of knowing she still holds power over you. But the moment she senses you have moved on, everything changes. What was once certainty turns into doubt. Your silence, instead of being passive, becomes an act of rejection, and human nature resists rejection far more than it embraces security. This is where regret begins to take shape. She starts wondering if she made a mistake. She checks your social media, asks mutual friends about you, or even creates excuses to reach out, not because she necessarily wants you back, but because she hates the idea of losing control over something she once had. This reaction is rooted in a well-documented psychological principle known as loss aversion. Studies show that people feel the pain of losing something far more intensely than they experience pleasure from gaining something new. It is not just about missing you, it is about the sudden realization that you are no longer within her grasp. She could afford to be indifferent when you were available and eager, but now that you are gone, she is forced to re-evaluate. The validation she once took for granted has disappeared, and its absence creates discomfort. When they sense a woman pulling away, most men react in ways that reinforce her decision. They chase, they plead, and they try to prove their worth. Ironically, this only strengthens her resolve. She feels suffocated, reassured that leaving was the right choice because she still holds the upper hand. The key is to do the opposite: disappear, elevate, not as an act of manipulation or a game, but a reflection of genuine self-respect. When a man shifts his focus from proving his value to becoming more valuable, the dynamic changes entirely. It is not about seeking revenge or trying to make her jealous. It is about redirecting your energy toward your growth. The more you invest in yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, the more naturally attractive you become. And the more unavailable you are, the more she begins to wonder. Because deep down, it is not you she regrets losing. It is the power she once had over you. 8. Why she's watching, but won't reach out. She hasn't reached out, but she's watching. Every post, every story, every subtle shift in your life. She sees it, and yet she remains silent. It's not indifference, and it's certainly not because she's moved on effortlessly. She's caught in a battle between her ego and her emotions. Reaching out would mean exposing herself, risking the possibility that you no longer care. That is a fear she's not ready to confront. Instead, she lingers in the background, waiting, hoping for some sign that you're still emotionally invested. Because as long as you are, she retains a sense of control. This is psychological warfare, and whether she's aware of it or not, she's playing the game. By withholding contact, she keeps the balance of power tilted in her favor. She wins if you break first, send that text, or reach out just to check in. She gets confirmation that you're still waiting, still attached, still orbiting her world. And the moment she senses the urgency she once felt begins to fade, she no longer has to wonder. She no longer has to miss you. Your presence, your desire, is already guaranteed. The only way to shift the dynamic is to detach completely. It's not about ignoring her or manipulating her. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to be drawn into a silent tug of war for power. When you stop reacting, when you truly let go, that's when the panic sets in for her. Suddenly, the control she thought she had started slipping through her fingers. She wonders why you haven't checked in, why you aren't chasing, why the man who once cared so much has seemingly moved on without hesitation. That uncertainty stirs something deep inside her, the realization that maybe, just maybe, she was wrong about you. Silence is more potent than words you could ever send when used correctly. Let her feel the weight of your absence. Let her sit with the unknown, because when she finally reaches out, it won't be out of convenience. It will be because she genuinely feels the loss. 9. The Stoic mindset, becoming the prize. Most men enter the dating world with the wrong frame of mind. They place women on a pedestal, believing that attraction can be earned through effort and validation. This mindset makes them chase, overanalyze, and ultimately lose power. A man who sees a woman as the ultimate prize unknowingly signals to her that he is beneath her. Women do not chase men who appear desperate for their attention. They chase scarce men who embody value without seeking approval. Stoicism teaches that others do not determine your value. You define it alone. A woman's interest, affection, or rejection does not increase or decrease your worth. When you truly internalize this, everything changes. You stop waiting for her to text, you stop checking her social media, and most importantly, you stop wondering whether she will come back. True detachment is not pretending to be indifferent while secretly hoping for her attention. It is moving forward with certainty that even if she were to reach out, it would not affect you. Ironically, this is when she feels your absence the most. A shift occurs when a man withdraws emotionally, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of his self-respect. The energy she once felt from his pursuit vanishes, leaving a void. That void forces her to question, wonder, and feel the absence of something she once took for granted. Women are entirely independent and drawn to men who do not need them. She reevaluates her feelings when she senses that her presence or absence no longer affects you. The final test of emotional mastery is this: if you are still wondering whether she will reach out, you have not truly let go. A man who has embraced his values does not linger in uncertainty. He does not wait, he does not watch, and he does not hold on to the past. He moves forward, clearly, fully aware that his worth is not tied to one woman. In doing so, he becomes the prize, not by playing games, but by embodying the unshakable confidence of a man who has already won. Conclusion: the real lesson isn't about winning her back, but becoming a man who no longer needs her validation. When you shift your focus from seeking external approval to mastering yourself, you unlock confidence that no one can take away. The best revenge isn't proving anything to her. It's succeeding in ways that make her presence or absence completely irrelevant. The moment she realizes you're truly gone, that's when she feels it the most. So remember, silence is your most potent weapon. Use it wisely. Chasing her lowers your value. Walk away instead. Your absence creates uncertainty, which fuels attraction. True detachment isn't pretending. It's genuinely moving on. And the ultimate goal isn't revenge, it's self-improvement. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced this dynamic? What strategies have helped you regain your power in a relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content on mastering attraction, self-improvement, and the psychology of relationships. See you in the next one.